I am Joshua, 32 years old, and I just watched my own brother sell the company I built with my bare hands, only to kick me to the curb like a stray dog. Before I tell you about the absolute catastrophe that followed for him, and the $35 million check that ended up in my pocket, let me know where you guys are watching from in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories travel. It smelled like stale coffee and expensive cologne in that boardroom. That specific mix of scents always gave me a headache. Or maybe it was just the presence of my brother, Caleb. He was standing at the head of the mahogany table, adjusting the cuffs of his Italian suit, looking like he'd just conquered the world. "The investors want me, not you," Caleb spat. The words hung in the air, heavy and sharp. I looked at him, trying to process what I was hearing. "Excuse me?" "You heard him," my father, Robert, chimed in from the corner. He was sitting there with his arms crossed, a smug look plastered on his face. He looked at me with that familiar disappointment, the same look he'd given me since I was 6 years old and preferred reading books to throwing a football. "Clear your desk, Joshua." I blinked, the fluorescent lights of the conference room suddenly feeling too bright. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but my hands, resting on the cold table, remained steady. "So, you sold the platform?" I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. "We sold the company," Caleb corrected, grinning like a shark that just smelled blood. "Titan Corp bought us out. $50 million. The ink is drying as we speak." "And the platform?" I pressed. "The code? The infrastructure I built." My dad sneered, leaning forward. "We sold the future, son. Caleb is the face of this enterprise. He's the visionary. Titan Corp needs leadership, not whatever it is you do in the dark." "I wrote every line of code, Dad," I said, looking him dead in the eye. "I built the security protocols. I built the payment gateway. Without me, VaultKey is just a pretty logo." Caleb laughed. It was a dry, dismissive sound. "You're a code monkey, Josh. Titan has hundreds of engineers in Silicon Valley. They don't need a CTO who drives a 10-year-old Honda and wears hoodies to meetings. They need a CEO who can command a room." He tossed a cardboard box onto the table. It slid across the polished wood and stopped right in front of me. "Security will escort you out in 10 minutes. Don't take anything that isn't yours." I looked at the box. Then I looked at my brother. Then at my father. "You're making a mistake," I said. "The only mistake," Caleb said, checking his Rolex, "was keeping you on the payroll this long out of pity. Now get out. I have a celebration dinner to get to." I didn't scream. I didn't flip the table. I stood up, picked up the empty box, and walked out. As I passed my father, he didn't even look at me. He was too busy staring admiringly at Caleb. I walked down the hallway, the glass walls of the office I had designed blurring in my peripheral vision. I saw the confused faces of the junior developers I had trained. I saw Maya, my lead developer, looking at me with wide, worried eyes from her cubicle. I just shook my head slightly, signaling her not to intervene. I took the elevator down to the parking garage. The silence in the metal box was deafening. My mind was racing, replaying the last 5 years in flashes. The sleepless nights, the missed holidays, the time I slept under my desk for 3 days straight to fix a critical bug before launch. All of it erased in a 10-minute meeting. The elevator doors pinged open. The garage was humid and smelled of exhaust and concrete. I walked toward my car, a beat-up Civic that had seen better days. But then I stopped, parked right in front of the elevator, taking up 2 spaces, one of which was clearly marked for handicap access, was a brand new Lamborghini Aventador. It was bright yellow, aggressive, and loud even when it was parked. It still had the temporary dealer tags. I stared at it. I knew exactly whose it was. Caleb had been talking about this car for months. He must have bought it on credit, banking on the sale going through. Or maybe he dipped into the company funds early. Again, seeing that car, gleaming under the harsh garage lights, something inside me snapped. Not a violent snap. Cold, calculated snap. They thought I was just the help. They thought I was just the hands, while Caleb was the head. They thought they could sell my life's work and toss me aside like a used wrapper. I opened the trunk of my Civic and tossed the empty cardboard box inside. I didn't need to pack my desk. I had everything I needed right here. I pulled out my laptop bag. I sat in the driver's seat of my car, but I didn't turn the engine on. I connected to the building's Wi-Fi. My credentials hadn't been revoked yet. Caleb was too lazy to call IT immediately. He was probably popping champagne right now. I opened my terminal. The black screen with the blinking green cursor felt like home. Felt like safety. I typed in a command. It wasn't a hack. I didn't need to hack anything. I had built the system. I knew where all the doors were because I had hung them myself. Execute Project Zero. My finger hovered over the Enter key. I thought about yesterday. Just 24 hours ago. Flashback, it was Sunday afternoon. I was at the office as usual. The air conditioning was off to save money. A directive from Caleb, so I had a fan blowing hot air into my face. We had a critical server migration scheduled for Monday morning, before the markets opened. It had to be perfect. My phone rang. It was Caleb. "Josh!" he shouted over the sound of loud bass music and wind. "The Wi-Fi at the lake house is down. I've got investors here. Fix it." "I'm at the office, Caleb," I said, wiping sweat from my forehead. "I'm prepping the migration. If I leave now, the database might corrupt." "I don't care about the database," he screamed. "I have guys here worth $10 million each and they can't check their stocks. Get down here now or don't bother coming in tomorrow." He hung up. I looked at the progress bar on my screen. 45%. If I stopped it now, I'd have to start over. It would take all night. But I was the younger brother. I was the one who was supposed to fix things. I was the one who was supposed to support the visionary. So I stopped the migration. I drove 2 hours to the lake house. When I got there, I found Caleb on a yacht, surrounded by people drinking champagne. The investors were just his frat buddies. The Wi-Fi wasn't down. He had just changed the password and forgotten it because he was drunk. I fixed it in 30 seconds. He didn't say thank you. He threw a half-eaten burger at me and said, "Grab a beer, code monkey. Then get back to the cave." I drove back to the office. I worked until 4 a.m. to finish the migration. In flashback, I looked at the Enter key again. "Get back to the cave," I whispered to myself. I pressed Enter. The screen scrolled with lines of text faster than the human eye could read. But I knew what they said. Initiating asset recovery, transferring source code to private server, wiping company servers, deleting local backups, error 404, asset not found. Took about 5 minutes. I watched the progress bar hit 100%. Project Zero complete. I closed my laptop. I put it in the passenger seat. I started my car. The engine sputtered a bit before catching life. It wasn't a Lamborghini. It didn't roar. But it was mine. And it was paid for. I drove out of the garage, passing the yellow beast that took up 2 spaces. As I merged onto the street, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Maya. "Sep, the server is empty. Everything is gone. The app is showing a white screen. What is happening?" I didn't reply. I turned off my phone. I drove home, stopped at a drive-thru, and bought a milkshake. Vanilla, my favorite. The storm was coming. I could feel the electricity in the air. But for the first time in 5 years, I didn't feel the weight of the world on my shoulders. I felt light, because they hadn't just fired their CTO. They had fired the owner of the product they just sold. And they were about to find out exactly what happens when you sell a car without the engine. To understand why I pressed that button, you have to understand where we came from. You have to understand the garage. 5 years ago, VaultKey wasn't a $50 million company. It was an idea. And honestly, it wasn't even a very unique idea. Caleb had come to me one sweltering July afternoon. I was living in a small studio apartment, working freelance cybersecurity gigs to pay the rent. Caleb barged in without knocking. He was wearing a suit, even though he had been unemployed for 6 months. He was driving a rental BMW to keep up appearances for dates. "I've got it, Josh," he announced, throwing his jacket on my couch. "The billion-dollar idea. A password manager for crypto wallets that uses biometric fragmentation." I looked up from my laptop. "That's actually technically possible," I said, thinking about the architecture. "But it would require a custom encryption engine. You can't use off-the-shelf libraries." "Exactly." Caleb pointed a finger at me. "That's where you come in. You build the engine. I build the brand. We split it. 50/50ths. I was skeptical. I knew Caleb. He was the guy who sold cheat sheets in high school that turned out to be wrong. He was the guy who started a consulting firm that was just him Googling business advice. "We need a contract," I said. "We need to incorporate properly. IP assignment, vesting schedules, salary." Caleb's face dropped. He looked wounded. "Josh, come on. We're brothers. We're blood. You want to bring lawyers into this? You know how much they charge? $500 an hour. We don't have that kind of capital. Every dollar needs to go into marketing." "I can draft something simple," I insisted. "Just so we're clear on ownership." That's when my phone rang. It was Mom. "Margaret." "Joshua," she said, her voice trembling. "Caleb tells me you're refusing to help him. After everything he's done for you." "Mom, I just want a contract. It's standard business." "Standard business?" she cried. "This is family. Your brother is trying to build a legacy. He wants to include you. He wants to save you from that computer life. Why do you always have to be so difficult? Why can't you just trust your brother?" She went on for 20 minutes. She talked about how Caleb was the golden boy, the one with the potential, and how I was lucky he was dragging me along. She guilt-tripped me about how much they paid for my braces 10 years ago. She cried about her blood pressure. Caved. "Fine," I told Caleb. "No lawyers yet. But once we have revenue, we do the paperwork." "Deal." Caleb slapped me on the back. "You won't regret this, bro. We're going to the moon." I started coding that night. For the first year, I worked 18 hours a day. I wrote the encryption engine from scratch in C++. I built the backend in Python. I designed the database schema. I secured the servers. Caleb? He spent his time networking, which mostly meant going to happy hours and buying drinks for people who might know investors. He brought $0 into the company for the first 18 months. I paid for the server costs out of my freelance savings. Then we got our first seed funding. A small angel investor put in $200,000. "We made it," Caleb cheered. "Great," I said, eyeing the bank account. "Now we can formalize the equity split and pay ourselves a salary." Whoa, Caleb slowed down. "We need to be lean, Josh. I need a salary because I have to maintain a lifestyle to attract clients. You don't really go out. You can keep living on your savings for a bit, right? For the good of the company. And the equity contract? I'm working on it." He waved his hand. "My friend is a lawyer. He's looking at it. Don't worry, bro. It's coming." It never came. 2 years in, my best friend, Mike, died in a motorcycle accident. It was devastating. Mike was the only person outside my family who really understood me. The funeral was on a Tuesday. I told Caleb I would be offline for the day. At 10 a.m., right as the service was starting, my phone started vibrating. Then it started ringing. Then Caleb started texting. "Server down. Fix now. Where are you? Investors are pissed. Pick up the phone, Joshua." I stepped out of the church, tears in my eyes. "Caleb, I'm at Mike's funeral. I told you this. The payment gateway is rejecting cards." Caleb screamed. "I don't care where you are. Get on your laptop and fix it. People are trying to give us money. I'm carrying the casket in 20 minutes. I whispered, my voice breaking. "If you don't fix this in 10 minutes, don't bother coming back," Caleb hissed. "Do you want to destroy this company? Do you want to destroy Mom and Dad's retirement plan?" I sat on the curb outside the church, in my black suit, with my laptop on my knees, debugging a race condition in the transaction log. I missed the eulogy. I missed carrying the casket. When I finally fixed it, Caleb texted back. Took you long enough. No condolences. No, I'm sorry. That was the day I stopped believing in the vision. But I felt trapped. I had sunk 3 years of my life into this code. If I left, I had nothing. No equity on paper. No savings left. A week later, Caleb drove into the parking lot in a used Porsche 911. Company car, he winked. Leased it for client impressions. Pretty sweet. Huh. I was driving a Honda Civic with a broken air conditioner. Caleb, we can't afford this, I said, looking at the tires. We need to upgrade the server clusters. We're hitting capacity. Relax, Josh. You're always such a downer. The car shows success. Success breeds success. Just keep the servers running. That's your job. Let me handle the business. My job. That became the mantra. I was the employee. He was the owner. My dad, Robert, reinforced it every Sunday dinner. Caleb's really taking charge, Dad would say, cutting his steak. He's got the executive mindset. You, Joshua, you're a good worker. Diligent. Like a good mechanic. I built the engine, Dad. I'd say quietly. A mechanic builds an engine, Dad would reply. But the driver wins the race. Mom would just pat my hand. Eat your potatoes, dear. Don't be jealous of your brother. Everyone has their role. My role was to be the invisible foundation they walked on. So, when Caleb announced the Titan Corp deal in that boardroom, it wasn't a surprise that he took the credit. But firing me? Cutting me out completely? That was the twist I didn't see coming. They thought I was weak. They thought I was conditioned to obey. They thought I would just take the box and leave, grateful for the scraps of experience they gave me. I sat in my apartment, sipping my milkshake, staring at my phone. It was finally turned back on. Messages were flooding in. Maya, Josh, seriously, pick up. Caleb is screaming. Caleb, pick up the phone. Caleb, you're dead. Caleb, I'm calling the police. Dad, what have you done? Fix this immediately. I scrolled through them, feeling a strange sense of detachment. Then, a text from Maya popped up that made me pause. Maya, he called the Titan Corp transition team. They're trying to access the repo. They're getting error 404 on everything. Josh, did you delete the repo? I smiled. I didn't delete it. You can't delete something you own. You just repossess it. The toxic history was over. The abuse was over. Now the war was beginning. The chaos started at 4:30 p.m. I wasn't there to see it, but Maya filled me in later. Apparently, the Titan Corp due diligence team had arrived at the office to begin the formal asset handover. These weren't the sales guys Caleb had charmed with steak dinners and strippers. These were the engineers, the guys who look under the hood. They sat down at the terminals. They tried to pull the latest build of the source code to verify the architecture. Command not found. Repository not found. Directory is empty. At the same time, the customer support lines started lighting up like a Christmas tree. Users trying to log in were getting white screens. The API calls, the invisible handshakes that make the app work, were hitting a void. The servers were responding, but they were ghost ships. There was no logic inside them. Caleb was in the conference room, popping a bottle of Dom Perignon with the Titan executives. To the future, Caleb had toasted. Then the lead engineer from Titan walked in. He didn't look happy. He whispered something to the VP of acquisitions. The VP's face went pale. He put his glass down. Mr. Vance, the VP said to Caleb, there seems to be a problem. Our engineers say the platform is gone. Gone? Caleb laughed nervously. What do you mean gone? It's in the cloud. It's always in the cloud. The cloud is empty, the engineer said bluntly. The buckets are there. The instances are running. But the code, the intellectual property, it's vanished. That's when Caleb called me. I watched my phone ring on my coffee table. Incoming call, Caleb. I let it ring. It rang again. Incoming call, Dad. I let it ring. I wasn't hiding. I was waiting. I needed to talk to someone else first. I picked up my keys and drove to a small office park on the edge of town. It wasn't fancy. No glass walls. No espresso machines. The sign on the door said, Marcus Thorne, attorney at law. Marcus was an old family friend. He used to be my dad's lawyer before Dad fired him for being too cautious and hired a flashy corporate firm. Marcus was the guy Caleb had ignored 5 years ago. I walked in. Marcus was older now, gray hair thinning, but he still had those sharp, intelligent eyes. He looked up from a file. Joshua, he said, surprised. I haven't seen you in years. Everything okay? Not really, Marcus, I said, sitting down. Caleb sold Vault Key today. 50 million. 50 million? Marcus whistled. Congratulations. I assume you're here to figure out tax structuring for your share. I was fired, I said flatly. 0 equity. 0 severance. They kicked me out. Marcus took off his glasses. He cleaned them slowly, a habit he had when he was processing bad news. And the contract? The one I sent Caleb 5 years ago. He never signed it, I said. He refused. He said we were family. Marcus sighed. Josh, without a signed assignment of IP, this gets messy. If you were an employee— I wasn't an employee for the first 2 years, I interrupted. No salary. No W-2. I wrote the core engine on my personal laptop in my apartment, paying for the servers with my own freelance money. Caleb didn't pay me a dime until we got seed funding in year 3. Marcus stopped cleaning his glasses. He looked at me, his eyes widening. Wait, you wrote the code before you were on payroll? And you never signed an IP transfer agreement later? Never, I confirmed. I asked. He refused. Repeatedly. Marcus stood up. He walked over to a filing cabinet. I keep everything, Josh. Even from clients who fire me. He dug through a dusty box. He pulled out a manila folder. Here it is. Email correspondence, dated August 12, 2018. From me to Caleb Vance. Subject: urgent, intellectual property assignment needed for Joshua. He pulled out a printed email. And here is Caleb's reply. He handed me the paper. I read it. From Caleb Vance to Marcus Thorne. Marcus, stop annoying me with this legal crap. Josh is my brother. He doesn't need a contract. He works for me. The code belongs to the company because I say it does. Save the billable hours. We don't need this paper trail. He explicitly rejected the contract, Marcus said, a small smile forming on his lips. In writing, while admitting you hadn't signed one. So what does that mean? I asked. It means, Marcus said, that under U.S. copyright law, specifically the work-for-hire doctrine, if you weren't an employee receiving a salary, and there was no written agreement, you own the copyright. You own the code, Josh. All of it. The company has at best an implied license to use it. And if they fire me, then the implied license is revoked, Marcus said, slamming the folder shut. They are currently selling stolen goods. My phone rang again. It was Caleb. Answer it, Marcus said, putting it on speaker. Let's hear what the CEO has to say. I swiped green. Joshua. Caleb's voice was a distortion of rage. You little maggot. What did you do? Put it back. Put the code back right now. Hello, Caleb, I said calmly. I'm here with my lawyer. Lawyer? Caleb laughed hysterically. You can't afford a lawyer. Listen to me. Titan is threatening to walk. They are threatening to sue me for fraud. If you don't restore the repository in 5 minutes, I am sending the police to your apartment. I will tell them you hacked us. That's a federal crime, Josh. Cyber terrorism. You'll rot in prison. I didn't hack anything, I said, looking at Marcus. Marcus nodded encouragingly. I simply removed my personal property from the premises after my employment was terminated. You told me to clear my desk. I cleared my desk. It's company property. Caleb screamed. I paid you. I gave you a job. Actually, Marcus cut in, his voice deep and baritone. Hello, Caleb. This is Marcus Thorne. According to my records, Joshua wrote the core engine 2 years before he received a single paycheck. And according to your own email to me from 2018, you specifically refused to have him sign over the IP rights. Silence on the other end. Dead silence. So, Marcus continued, Joshua is the legal copyright holder of the Vault Key source code. By selling the company without his permission, and without securing the IP rights, you have committed securities fraud against Titan Corporation. And by continuing to use his code without a license, Vault Key is liable for copyright infringement. Statutory damages are significant. Marcus. Caleb sounded small now. You're representing him? I am, Marcus said. And we will be sending a cease and desist letter within the hour. If you attempt to use any backup of Joshua's code, or if you attempt to reverse engineer it, we will sue you for everything you own. Have a nice day. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From adrenaline. What now? I asked. Now, Marcus said. We wait for them to panic. And Josh, lock your door tonight. I went home. The sun was setting. The sky was a bruised purple. I parked my car and walked up the stairs to my apartment. I could hear my heart beating in my ears. I felt like a fugitive, but I knew I was the sheriff. I got inside, locked the deadbolt and slid the chain across. I sat on my couch and turned on the local news. Nothing yet. It was too soon for the media, but the tech blogs were probably buzzing. Vault Key down. Exit scam? Then the banging started. It wasn't a knock. It was a fist pounding against wood. Thud, thud, thud. Open the damn door, Joshua. It was my father, and he sounded like he wanted to kill me. The pounding on the door shook the cheap picture frames on my wall. Joshua, I know you're in there. It was a terrifying sound. My father, Robert Vance, was a man who prided himself on composure. He was the guy who wore a tie to Sunday brunch. To hear him screaming like a brawler in a hallway was jarring. I checked the peephole. It was the whole circus. Dad, face red and sweating. Mom, clutching her purse and looking around nervously at the neighbors' doors. And Caleb, looking disheveled, his tie loosened, his eyes wild. I didn't open the door. I spoke through it. Go away, I said. Talk to my lawyer. Lawyer, Dad roared. Open this door before I kick it down. We are your family. How dare you hide behind a lawyer? You fired me, Dad, I shouted back. Family doesn't fire family at a board meeting. Joshua, please. Mom's voice came through, shrill and desperate. Please, honey, just let us in. People are looking. You're embarrassing us. She was right. My neighbor, Mrs. Higgins, had cracked her door open and was peering out. I sighed. I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door, but I stood in the frame, blocking the entrance. You have 5 minutes. Then I'm calling the police for harassment. They pushed past me. They didn't ask. They just invaded my space like they always did. My apartment was small. 1 bedroom, a messy living room with computer parts scattered around. Caleb looked at it with disgust. You live like a rat, Caleb sneered. And you think you deserve $50 million? I deserve what I built, I said, closing the door. What do you want? Caleb paced the room. Titan has frozen the funds. They put a hold on the transfer. They're saying the deal is void if the platform isn't online by midnight. Do you understand what that means? I lose the bonus. I lose the reputation. I look like a fraud. You are a fraud, Caleb, I said calmly. You sold something you didn't own. Caleb reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out a checkbook. He scribbled something furiously, ripped it out, and shoved it at my chest. Here, he said, $50,000. That's a year's salary for you. Take it. Sign a waiver. Give me the code key. And we forget this happened. I looked at the check. 50000. 50,000? I laughed. It was a cold, bitter laugh. The deal is worth 50 million. You're offering me 0.1%? For 100% of the leverage. It's better than nothing. Caleb screamed, spit flying from his mouth. You're greedy, Josh. You've always been jealous of me. Jealous of my car. Jealous of my girls. Jealous that Dad loves me more. Caleb, Mom gasped. It's true, Caleb yelled. Look at him. He's a loser. He wants to ruin me because he can't be me. Dad stepped forward. He tried to play the rational patriarch. Joshua, look, be reasonable. 50,000 is a lot of money. You can buy a newer car. You can fix your teeth. We can help you find another job. Maybe in IT support. Something less stressful. IT support? I stared at him. I built the most advanced cryptographic engine in the fintech market, and you think I should work help desk? You're good with printers. Dad shrugged. It was so insulting I almost couldn't breathe. They didn't even know who I was. To them, I was just the guy who fixed the Wi-Fi. The price isn't 50,000, I said. It's not money at all. I want you to admit it. Admit what? Mom asked. Admit that I built it. Admit that without me, Caleb is nothing. Never, Caleb hissed. You're a tool. A hammer doesn't get credit for the house. Then get out. I pointed to the door. Mom stepped forward. This was the weapon of mass destruction. The guilt trip. She started crying. Real tears. She was good at this. Joshua, she sobbed. How can you do this to me? My heart condition. The doctor said stress could kill me. Do you want to kill your mother? Mom, don't, I warned. And the medical bills, she continued. Dad and we were counting on this sale. We need to pay for my surgery. If the deal falls through, we lose everything. We might lose the house. I paused. What surgery, Mom? My hip, she stammered. And the specialized cardiac therapy. Mom, I said, my voice shaking. I saw your Facebook. You put a deposit down on a vacation condo in Florida last week. Is that the surgery? She froze. Her eyes darted to Dad. We deserve a retirement, Dad barked. We raised you. We fed you. You owe us. I don't owe you my life, I said. I looked at the check in my hand. I slowly crumpled it into a ball. I dropped it on the floor. And I don't want your charity. Caleb looked at the crumpled paper. His face turned purple. He looked around the room for something to break. He saw a potted plant, a small bonsai tree I had been growing for 3 years. It was the only living thing in my apartment. He grabbed it and smashed it against the wall. Dirt and ceramic shards exploded everywhere. You'll regret this, Caleb screamed. I'll bury you. I'll hire hackers. I'll pay Russians to crack your code. You think you're smart? You're just a nerd in a basement. Get out, I said, picking up my phone and dialing 911. I'm pressing call. Dad grabbed Caleb's arm. We're leaving. He's insane. He's lost his mind. They stormed out, leaving a trail of dirt and anger. I locked the door. I slid down against it, burying my face in my hands. I was shaking, but then I stood up. I looked at the broken bonsai tree. I swept up the dirt. They were desperate. That meant I was winning. Caleb said he would hire hackers. Good luck. My encryption used a polymorphic key that changed every hour based on a seed generated by my own biometric data. Unless they had my retina scan, they weren't getting in. My phone buzzed. It wasn't them. It was a number I didn't recognize. Area code 415, Silicon Valley. I picked up. Hello. Is this Joshua Vance? A woman's voice. Sharp, clear, authoritative. Who is this? This is Evelyn Sterling, CEO of Titan Corporation. I'm currently on my jet flying to your city. I want to meet you. I can't talk to you, I stammered. My lawyer. Bring your lawyer, she said. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., at the Vault Key office. I'm kicking your brother out of the room, and I want to hear the truth. Why? I asked. Because, she said, my engineers tell me that the code didn't just disappear. They say it was recalled, which means someone holds the leash. And I don't like buying dogs I can't walk. I'll be there, I said. Good. And Joshua? Yes. Bring proof. She hung up. I looked at the mess in my apartment. I looked at my laptop. Proof. Oh, I had proof. I had 5 years of logs. I had emails. I had the committing history. But I needed something more. I needed to show her exactly who Caleb was. I sat down at my computer. I started digging through the financial records of the company. As CTO, I had root access to everything, including the internal accounting server. I had never looked at it before because finance was Caleb's job. I opened the ledger. I saw the Titan Corp down payment. $2 million wired last week as a good faith deposit. Then I saw the withdrawals. Lamborghini dealership, $450,000. Rolls-Royce deposit, $100,000. Offshore transfer, Cayman Islands, $500,000. My jaw dropped. He hadn't just bought a car. He was embezzling the acquisition money before the deal was even closed. I printed the pages. You want proof, Evelyn? I whispered. I'll bring you a smoking gun. The next morning, the Vault Key parking lot looked like a luxury car dealership. Caleb's yellow Lamborghini was there, parked crookedly. Next to it was a Rolls-Royce Cullinan, Dad's new ride, apparently. And flanked by black SUVs was a sleek, silver Mercedes Maybach. That had to be Evelyn. I pulled my Honda Civic into a spot far away. Marcus, my lawyer, parked his Ford Taurus next to me. You ready for this? Marcus asked, straightening his tie. He held his briefcase like a shield. I have the ammo. I patted my bag. Let's finish this. We walked into the building. The receptionist, who usually smiled at me, looked down at her desk, terrified. The atmosphere was heavy, like the air before a tornado touches down. We walked into the main conference room. It was crowded. Caleb was there, sweating through his suit. Dad was pacing. Mom was sitting in a corner, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. And at the head of the table sat Evelyn Sterling. She was in her 50s, with short, steel-gray hair and glasses that looked like they cost more than my car. She didn't stand up when I entered. She just watched me. So this is the ghost in the machine, Evelyn said, her voice cool. This is the hijacker, Caleb shouted, pointing a trembling finger at me. Evelyn, don't listen to him. He planted a logic bomb. He's holding us ransom. Sit down, Caleb. Evelyn didn't even look at him. Mr. Vance, take a seat. Mr. Thorne, good to see you again. Marcus nodded. Ms. Sterling. I sat down. I put my laptop on the table. Let's cut the crap, Evelyn said. My app is down. My stock price dropped 4% this morning because of rumors that I bought a lemon. Caleb here says you sabotaged the code. You say you own the code. Convince me why I shouldn't have you arrested right now. Because I didn't sabotage it, I said, my voice steady. I revoked the license. He's lying, Dad shouted. He's an employee. Everything he does belongs to the company. Marcus slid a piece of paper across the table to Evelyn. Ms. Sterling, this is an email from 2018 where Caleb Vance explicitly rejected a work-for-hire agreement with Joshua, stating, and I quote, Josh doesn't need a contract. Under the law, without that contract, the copyright remains with the author. Evelyn read the email. She looked at Caleb. Is this true? It was a joke, Caleb stammered. We were just starting out. It doesn't mean anything. It means everything, Marcus said. It means Joshua owns the engine. Vault Key owns the logo. Technicalities. Caleb waved his hand. We can argue this in court for years. But right now, Joshua is destroying value. Evelyn, just authorized the police to seize his laptop. We'll get the code back. Evelyn tapped her pen on the table. I don't care about court. I care about my product. Joshua, can you turn it back on? Yes, I said. In 5 minutes. Then do it, she ordered. And we will discuss a settlement fee. No, I said. The room went silent. Excuse me? Evelyn raised an eyebrow. I'm not turning it back on for Caleb, I said. I'm not working for him ever again. And I'm not letting him sell my work to buy himself toys. Toys? Evelyn frowned. What are you talking about? I opened my bag and pulled out the financial logs I had printed the night before. I slid them to Evelyn. Caleb told you the company was debt-free and cash-positive, right? I asked. That was the representation, Evelyn confirmed, picking up the papers. Look at the transactions from last week, I said. The $2 million you wired as a deposit? It didn't go to operations. It didn't go to paying off the server debts. Evelyn scanned the page. Her eyes narrowed. Her jaw tightened. Lamborghini of Miami, she read aloud. Rolls-Royce Motors. Cayman Islands Holdings. She stopped reading. She slowly put the paper down. She turned to Caleb. Her face was terrifyingly calm. You used my deposit money, corporate funds, to buy personal vehicles. Caleb's face went white. No, that's a lie. Joshua photoshopped that. It's a company car. For marketing. Marketing. Evelyn stood up. She walked to the window and looked down at the parking lot. She pointed at the yellow Lamborghini. That marketing? It projects success, Caleb squeaked. And the Cayman Islands transfer? Evelyn asked, turning back to him. Is that marketing too? That's tax optimization. Dad interjected, trying to save his son. Standard practice. It's embezzlement, Evelyn said. Her voice was like ice. It's fraud. You took acquisition funds and siphoned them before the deal closed. She looked at her assistant. Get the legal team on the phone. Cancel the deal. Freeze the escrow. And call the district attorney. No, Caleb screamed. He fell to his knees. Literally. Evelyn, please. It's a misunderstanding. I can fix it. I'll sell the car. Don't call the DA. You tried to sell me stolen IP, Evelyn said, looking down at him with disgust. And you stole my deposit. You're done, Caleb. She turned to me. The room felt like it had no oxygen left for Caleb and my parents. Dad was slumped in his chair, looking old and defeated. Mom was sobbing into her hands. Joshua, Evelyn said, the deal with Vault Key is dead. I'm not buying this company. It's a criminal enterprise. I understand, I said. However, she continued, I still need that encryption engine. It's the best on the market. My engineers tell me it's brilliant. She sat down next to me. I want to buy the code. Directly from you, the owner. You can't do that, Dad shouted. We have rights. You have nothing, Evelyn snapped at him. You have a bankrupt shell company and a son who is going to prison. Shut up. She looked back at me. Name your price. I looked at Caleb, kneeling on the floor, weeping. I looked at Dad, defeated. I looked at Mom, who wouldn't meet my eyes. 35 million, I said, for a perpetual exclusive license. I keep the copyright, and 5% equity in the new division you formed to run it. Done, Evelyn said. She didn't even blink. She stuck out her hand. I shook it. Marcus, she said to my lawyer, draft the papers. I want the system online by noon. Yes, ma'am, Marcus grinned. This is the moment that changed everything. The moment I realized that my value wasn't determined by my family's opinion, but by the work I put in. I finally took back control of my life. If you've ever felt undervalued or pushed aside, hit that like button and comment part 1 below so I know you're with me. Your support helps more people see that you don't have to accept the role you're given. You can write your own. The immediate aftermath of a nuclear explosion is strangely quiet. The blast wave hits, destroys everything, and then there's just silence. That's what the conference room felt like after Evelyn shook my hand. Security guards, the same ones Caleb had hired to look important, were now escorting him out. It was a pathetic sight. Caleb, the golden boy, was blubbering, dragging his feet, begging Evelyn for another chance. Dad, do something, Caleb wailed as they grabbed his arms. Dad didn't move. He was staring at the table, his face gray. He looked like he was having a stroke. The reality was setting in. The 50 million was gone. The deposit was gone. The reputation was gone. Mr. and Mrs. Vance, Evelyn said, her voice cutting through the room. I suggest you leave as well. My lawyers will be contacting you regarding the return of my $2 million. If that money isn't back in my account in 24 hours, I'm coming for your personal assets. Your house, your retirement accounts, everything. We don't have it, Mom whispered, terrified. Caleb spent it. The cars, the debts. Then I suggest you start selling things, Evelyn said coldly. Get them out of here. I watched my parents stand up. They looked frail, vulnerable. For a second, I felt a pang of pity, just a flicker. But then I remembered the smashed bonsai tree. I remembered the funeral I missed. I remembered, clear your desk. I didn't say goodbye. I turned back to my laptop. They walked out, leaving me alone with Evelyn and Marcus. Okay, Evelyn exhaled, dropping the scary CO act for a second. That was unpleasant. I hate messy families. Sorry about that, I said. Don't be. You handled yourself well, she said. Now let's talk business. Can you actually get the system back online? Yes, I said. I have the backup on my secure drive. I can restore the repo and push the build in about an hour. Good. Do it here. I'll have lunch brought in. I spent the next 2 hours doing what I loved. Coding, restoring, fixing. Maya came in about halfway through. She saw me sitting at the head of the table, where Caleb used to sit. Josh? She asked, confused. Security said Caleb was arrested? What is going on? Maya, I smiled. Meet Evelyn Sterling, our new partner. Partner? I'm licensing the code to Titan, I explained. VaultKey as a company is dissolving, but the product lives on. And Evelyn needs a CTO for the new division. I looked at Evelyn. She nodded. Maya, I said, I'm not going to be the CTO. I'm taking a break. I'm going to be an advisor. I think you should be the CTO. Maya's jaw dropped. Me? You know the code almost as well as I do, I said. And you're the only one who texted me when I was fired. Loyalty matters. Evelyn looked at Maya. If Joshua vouches for you, that's good enough for me. Salary is $250,000 a year plus stock options. You in? Maya looked like she was going to faint. Yes, absolutely. By 2 p.m., the system was live. The dashboards turned from red to green. The support tickets started to resolve. I packed up my laptop. I'll have the check wired to your trust account by tomorrow morning, Evelyn said. 35 million. Thank you, Evelyn, I said. One more thing, she said, pointing out the window. You might want to see this. I walked to the window. Down in the parking lot, a tow truck was backing up to the yellow Lamborghini. A second tow truck was hooking up the Rolls-Royce. Caleb was standing there, handcuffed, watching his dreams get hauled away. The police were putting him in the back of a cruiser. I felt closure. I walked out of the building. The air smelled fresh. No more stale coffee and cologne. I walked to my Honda Civic. It was dusty. It had a dent in the bumper, but it started on the first try. I drove past the tow trucks. I saw Caleb's face pressed against the glass of the police car. He saw me. He screamed something, but the glass was soundproof. I didn't slow down. I didn't go home immediately. I drove to the cemetery. I walked to Mike's grave. It was quiet. The grass was green. I did it, Mike, I whispered. I fixed the bug. I sat there for a long time. I thought about the money. $35 million. It was an abstract number. It was F******U money. But more importantly, it was freedom. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Mom. Joshua, please, we need bail money for Caleb. And the bank is calling about the house. You have millions now. Please help your family. I looked at the text. I typed a reply. My family is the people who respect me. You fired your family. I blocked the number. Then I blocked Dad. Then I blocked Caleb. I got back in my car. I had a lot of planning to do. I had to set up the trust. I had to pay Marcus. I had to find a new apartment, somewhere with a lot of light and room for plants. But first, I was going to get a really, really good vanilla milkshake. You know, people always say that time heals all wounds. I don't think that's true. Time doesn't heal the wound. It just turns it into a scar. A scar doesn't hurt anymore, but it's there to remind you that you survived something that tried to kill you. It has been 12 months since I walked out of the Vault Key office. 12 months since I watched my brother get shoved into the back of a police cruiser. My life today looks very different from the guy who sat in a dark apartment drinking a vanilla milkshake while his world burned down. I didn't buy a Lamborghini. I didn't buy a yacht. The first thing I did with the $35 million, after paying Marcus and setting up a tax-protected trust, was buy a building. It's an old brick warehouse in the Arts District. High ceilings, big windows, lots of natural light. I turned it into the Vance Incubator. It's not a typical tech startup hub. We don't just give money to young engineers, we give them armor. I walk through the main floor every morning. It smells like fresh espresso and ozone. There are 20 young developers here now, kids just like I was. Brilliant, introverted, and completely naive about business. I stood by the coffee machine this morning watching a young girl named Sarah argue with Marcus. Marcus is my partner now. He handles the legal education for every startup we fund. But I don't want to offend my co-founder with a contract, Sarah was saying. He's my best friend. Marcus looked at me and winked. Then he handed her a thick binder. Sarah, he said gently, contracts don't destroy friendships. Expectations do. Sign the papers. I smiled. That's the mission. No one gets exploited on my watch. I walked to my office. It's a glass cube in the center of the room. I don't hide in a cave anymore. I drive a Porsche Panamera to work. It's dark gray, understated, reliable and powerful. It reminds me that I can have nice things without screaming for attention. But while my sun was rising, the sun was setting on the Vance dynasty. And it was a sunset full of ugly colors. I didn't go to the trial, but I read the transcripts. The district attorney didn't go easy on Caleb. The embezzlement charges regarding the Titan Corp deposit were just the tip of the iceberg. Once the forensic accountants dug into Vault Key's books, they found years of rot. Caleb hadn't just stolen the deposit. He had been using the company credit cards to fund a gambling addiction for 3 years. He had drained the employee 401k match program to pay off bookies in Vegas. The defense tried to paint him as a victim of pressure. They claimed he was overworked and trying to save the company. The jury didn't buy it, especially not after Titan's lawyers testified. Caleb was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison for wire fraud and embezzlement. He's currently serving time at a minimum security facility in Florida. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that his wife, Chloe, didn't even wait for the sentencing. She filed for divorce 3 days after his arrest. She cited irreconcilable differences, which is lawyer speak for the money is gone. She took whatever jewelry and designer bags she could hide from the asset seizure team and moved back in with her parents. And then there were my parents, Robert and Margaret. This is the part that is hard to talk about. Not because I miss them, but because it's hard to watch people you once feared become pathetic. When Evelyn Sterling demanded her $2 million back, she wasn't bluffing. My parents didn't have it. They had co-signed loans for Caleb. They had leveraged their house to the hilt to fund his lifestyle appearance. The bank foreclosed on their estate 3 months ago. I saw the listing online. The house where I grew up. The house where I was told to eat in the kitchen while Caleb entertained guests in the dining room. It was sold at auction for pennies on the dollar to pay off the creditors. They lost the country club membership. They lost the status. They lost the friends who only liked them for their parties. They moved into a 2-bedroom rental apartment on the south side of town. It's a decent place, clean, safe. But for people like Robert and Margaret Vance, who measured their worth by the zip code on their mail, it was a prison sentence worse than Caleb's. I hadn't spoken to them. I kept my number blocked. Marcus handled all the legal harassment they tried to throw at me. Demands for family support, Threats of lawsuits for emotional distress. Marcus swatted them down like flies. But you can't block reality. It happened last Tuesday. I was at the grocery store. I usually use a delivery service, but I wanted to pick out steaks for a barbecue I was hosting for the incubator team. I was in the produce aisle, inspecting bell peppers, when I heard a voice. "Those are too expensive, Margaret. Put them back." I froze. My hand hovered over a red pepper. I turned my head slightly. There they were. My father was pushing the cart. He looked shrunken. The arrogant posture was gone, replaced by a stoop. He was wearing a tracksuit that had seen better days. And my mother, she was holding a bag of generic apples, looking at the price tag with intense concentration. She looked tired. Her hair wasn't dyed anymore. The gray roots were showing. I should have walked away. I should have abandoned my cart and left the store. But I didn't. I stood there. I wanted to see if I still felt afraid. I wanted to see if the little boy inside me would still tremble. I didn't tremble. I felt nothing, just a hollow curiosity. My mother looked up. Her eyes locked with mine. She dropped the apples. They rolled across the linoleum floor. "Joshua?" she whispered. My father looked up. His eyes widened. He looked at my clothes, a simple t-shirt and jeans, but he noticed the watch on my wrist. He noticed the calmness in my stance. "Hello," I said. My voice was steady. "Joshua." My mother rushed forward. For a second, I thought she was going to hug me. I took a step back. She stopped, wringing her hands. We haven't heard from you," she said, her voice cracking. "We tried to call. Did you change your number?" "I blocked you," I said. The truth hung there, naked and cold. "How could you?" she cried, causing a woman near the bananas to look over. "We are your parents. We are suffering, Joshua. Look at us. Look at your father." "I see him," I said. "We lost the house," Dad grumbled, refusing to look me in the eye. "Because of you. Because you had to be vindictive. You lost the house because you bet everything on a criminal," I corrected him. "I didn't tell Caleb to steal. I didn't tell you to co-sign his loans." "He's your brother," Mom sobbed. "He made a mistake. He was under so much pressure. If you had just helped him, if you had just signed the waiver, none of this would have happened. He would be free. We would still be in our home." I stared at her. It was incredible. Even now, after everything, after the judges and the evidence and the jail cell, she still blamed me. In her mind, the crime wasn't the theft. The crime was me exposing it. "He stole $2 million, Mom," I said. "He was gambling away the company funds for 3 years. Did you know that?" She went quiet. She looked down at her shoes. And then the twist dropped. The final piece of the puzzle that I hadn't realized was missing. I knew he had debts," she whispered. "Margaret," Dad hissed at her. "Shut up." "No, Robert." She snapped at him, then looked at me with pleading eyes. "Joshua, please understand. He was in trouble. The bad men, the bookies, they were threatening him. 2 years ago, he came to me. He said he needed money or they would hurt him." I felt a cold chill run down my spine. "So what did you do?" "I gave him my retirement fund," she confessed. "And when that was gone, I mortgaged the house. The first time." My jaw tightened. "You knew." "I had to save him," she wailed. "He's special, Joshua. He was going to be big. He just needed time. I thought, when the Titan deal went through, he would pay it all back. He promised he would pay it all back." I stepped closer to her. "So when you came to my apartment that night, when you told me you needed money for heart surgery, that was a lie?" She flinched. I have palpitations." "You were lying," I said. "You were trying to get me to give up my copyright so Caleb could use the Titan money to pay back the gambling debts that you enabled." "I did it for the family," she screamed. "No," I said softly. "You did it for Caleb. You were willing to sacrifice me, my work, my future, just to cover up his mess. You were his accomplice." I'm your mother. She grabbed my arm. Her grip was weak. And I'm old. And we have nothing. Joshua, please. You have millions. Just buy us a small house. Or help with the rent. A monthly allowance. Anything. We can't live like this. I looked at her hand on my arm. I remembered the feeling of carrying Mike's casket alone because she told me to go back to work. I remembered the years of being called the code monkey. I looked at my father, who was staring at the stakes in my cart with hunger and resentment. I gently removed her hand from my arm. I can't do that, I said. Why? She demanded, her face twisting into ugliness. Are you that cruel? Are you going to let us starve? You won't starve, I said. You have Social Security. You have an apartment. You have exactly what you earned. We raised you, Dad shouted. And I paid you back, I said. I built a $50 million product for you for free. You threw it away. The debt is paid. If you walk away now, Mom hissed, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. You are no son of mine. I looked her dead in the eye. I saw the manipulation, the narcissism, the absolute refusal to take responsibility. I made peace with that a long time ago, I said. I turned around. Joshua, she screamed, don't you turn your back on me. I hope you rot with your money. You're selfish. You're just like your grandfather. I kept walking. I didn't look back. I didn't feel guilty. I walked to the checkout. I paid for my steaks. I paid for the wine. As I walked out to my car, the sun was shining. The air was crisp. I sat in my Porsche. I gripped the steering wheel. I took a deep breath. For years, I thought I was broken because I couldn't make them love me. I thought if I just worked harder, coded better, made more money, they would finally see me. But in that grocery store aisle, amidst the generic apples and the red peppers, I realized the truth. They did see me. They saw me clearly. They saw a resource. They saw a battery to be drained until it was empty, and then discarded. And by walking away, I wasn't being cruel. I was finally unplugging myself. I started the engine. The car purred. I drove back to the incubator. Back to the kids who needed contracts. Back to Maya, who was thriving as CTO. Back to my life. The rearview mirror was empty. And for the first time, I didn't check it to see if they were following me. There is a concept in programming called garbage collection. It's an automatic memory management feature in languages like Java and Python. Basically, the system looks for objects in the memory that are no longer being used by the program. Objects that are just taking up space, dragging down performance, and serving no purpose. When the garbage collector finds these objects, it deletes them. It frees up the memory so the system can run faster, cleaner, and more efficiently. It's not malicious. It's not angry. It's just necessary for the health of the system. For the last year, I've been running my own personal garbage collection. I sit here on the balcony of my new home. It's not a mansion. It's a nice, modern house overlooking the city. I have a garden now, a real one, not just a bonsai tree. I'm growing tomatoes and peppers. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and violet. It's beautiful. I think about the concept of source code a lot. In tech, the source code is the DNA of the program. It determines how everything behaves. If the source code is buggy, the app crashes. If the source code is malicious, the app steals. For 30 years, I let my family write my source code. They wrote lines of code that said, if Joshua _ sucks, credit equals Caleb. If Joshua _ fails, blame equals Joshua. While family _needs _money, Joshua _ work. It was a corrupted script. It was designed to crash me. But that day in the conference room, when I hit execute on Project Zero, I didn't just wipe the servers. I wiped that corrupted script from my brain. I rewrote my own kernel. I learned that no is a complete sentence. I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean allowing people to hurt you again. It just means you stop hoping for a better past. I hear from Maya often. She tells me Vault Key under Titan's management is doing incredible things. They launched a new biometric feature last week that I designed on a napkin 3 years ago. The saving people's life savings from hackers. I get a royalty check every quarter. It's substantial. But the money isn't the victory. The victory is the Saturday mornings. I wake up when I want. I drink coffee on my porch. I don't check my phone in a panic, expecting a crisis. I don't dread holidays. I spent Thanksgiving with Marcus and his family. We ate turkey, watched football, and nobody screamed. Nobody asked for a loan. Nobody compared me to anyone else. It was boring. And it was the best Thanksgiving of my life. I still have scars. Sometimes, when I achieve something great at the incubator, my first instinct is to reach for my phone to call my dad, to finally get that "good job, son." Then I remember the grocery store. I remember the look in his eyes. Not pride, but hunger. And I put the phone down. I validate myself now. To anyone out there listening to this, maybe you're the Joshua of your family. Maybe you're the one doing the work while someone else takes the credit. Maybe you're the one being told to sacrifice your happiness for the greater good of people who wouldn't lift a finger for you. They will call you selfish when you set boundaries. They will call you crazy when you speak the truth. They will try to use your history against you. Let them. You own your source code. You are the architect of your life. And you have the right to delete the users who are corrupting your system. It's not easy. It's the hardest update you'll ever install. But once it's running, the performance is incredible. Thank you for listening to my journey. If this story stirred something in you, it's likely because you've felt the weight of unfair expectations. Here is the hard truth I learned, which I want to pass on to you. Financial abuse is real abuse. When family members use guilt, blood, or obligation to manipulate your financial security or steal your labor, that is not love. It is exploitation. Always protect yourself. In business, even with family, get it in writing. A contract isn't an act of distrust. It's an act of clarity. If someone refuses to sign a paper protecting your rights, they are already planning to violate them. And remember, no is a necessary boundary. You are not a retirement plan, a bailout fund, or a doormat. You are a person worthy of respect. Now, I want to hear from you. What is the one boundary you wish you had set sooner with a toxic family member or coworker? Or, if this story helped you realize you need to protect your own source code, just comment good below. Seeing your comments helps me know that sharing this pain was worth it. Let's support each other in the comments.